Wilderness Gully East lies above Dove Stone Reservoir in the Northwest Peak District. The Scrambles in the Dark Peak book lists it as a grade 2/3 scramble, but if you're a grade 1 scrambler, don't let that put you off. With a bit of direction, it is a realistic climb. And the first bit of direction is which one of the several gullies running down from Chew Hurdles actually is Wilderness Gully East. In the Scrambles in the Dark Peak book, there are 5 recognised scrambles, but there's also an unrecognised one as well. So this is the unrecognised one, starting with the gully, we might call it Far West, otherwise known as Bower Clough. Then here we have Gully West. The deep groove is the grade 2 Wilderness Gully East, and then tracking across we have here Far East. Just up there we have Far East, and you can just see line of rocks up there, which is Far East. Your typical starting point will be Dove Stone car park, then walk along the south side of the reservoir and up Chew Road that leads to Chew Reservoir. Keep going up Chew Road past Charnel Clough and round the big bend here that's opposite Chew Green, and get yourself to this point, which is above the footbridge over Chew Brook, and you might just be able to see there's a path that runs down here. You take that path, I think it runs to the footbridge, but head left up Chew Brook before you get to that point. At some point, make your way across to the right side of Chew Brook. There isn't much of a recognisable path, but just keep tracking up the brook. Past some very boggy ground, these rust-coloured rocks mark the entrance to the East Gully, and from here you can start making your way upwards over these boulders. The gully has a consistent steep gradient, but there are a few particular pitches within it. These rock steps at the start might be considered the first. You can go to the left if you don't want to get yourself wet by going up the central groove. At the next set of steps immediately above, you've got choices. Over here on the right, it is overhung, difficult, I'd say at least a grade 3 there. Somewhat easier, and the route I take is over these large blocks. You have to jam your foot in just there in order to pull yourself up over onto that larger of the blocks. About the same, also a grade 2, you can make your way up this cleft here and round, and if none of that appeals, come back here and grab the heather and make your way up and round. Weather makes a difference. The gully is north facing, so it tends to only be properly dry on good summer days, and at the other end of the spectrum there's a YouTube video out there of scrambling it in the wake of Storm Alex with lots of water pouring down. The brook does also occasionally freeze up, so you can do ice climbing at times. As for today, the water levels are relatively low and you can quite easily steer around the brook and the pools, so hopefully not going to get your feet wet. But on the other hand, the rock is a little bit greasy in places. Those rocks I just showed are a nice height, so they're easy enough to step up. And then you're faced with these rather larger set of boulders. To get up them, go over here to the left. When you get up here, it looks easy at first, but it is a bit overhung. Personally, I feel no shame in just crawling myself onto this rock here and then move myself over into the centre and then just step further up those rocks. This next small pitch can be scrambled left, centre, or easiest of all, up here on the right. If you do turn around at any point, there's a pleasant view across the Chew Valley to the reservoir and Alderman's Hill and beyond, albeit facing the spot on Chew Road where David Lytton, aka Neil Dovestones, was found. Grade 1 steps lead to this, the most imposing of the pitches so far, probably around 15 feet in height. You can try going up to the right, that's wet, that's difficult. I wouldn't bother. Most obvious is going up here, which is a set of steps, a little overhung in places. You could, if you wanted to, try going up and then round across here and then up, but I'm not sure that's going to save you very much. And finally, if you don't like that, come up here in the heather and go up and round, though even that in itself is going to be somewhat of a challenge. Having just come up this central groove, I would say it is a little daunting, and the one additional tip I'd give is to reach over a number of the rocks with your hands, because you'll find at the back of them some very nice handholds to allow you to pull yourself up. More grade 1 rocky steps lead you here, and you can go up on the left hand side using a couple of small foot ledges to take yourself up. Getting towards the final section and the final pitch, you can go up here in the cleft on the right. When you get up to this point here, you can either carry on in the cleft, or more easily you can cut across and go up here where it's a mix of grass and rock. You can go up here, these central rocks, and I'll show in a moment what happens when you get to there. To the left and to the right there is heather, but it is very steep, and actually the rock climbing is probably almost as easy, if not easier. The rock is slippery if you're coming up that central section there. Once you've come here to the midway point, your easiest bet is to go off and join the right hand cleft there, particularly if you take the rocky grassy route option. You could try moving up this here, but there's some pretty nasty overhangs right at the top there, so if you don't want to take the rocky grassy option, I'd suggest instead taking the route up here to the left, up and over there and along to the top. Very last blocks follow the apparent rule of scrambling, which is go left up to there and then make your way all the way to the top. This is the finish point where the gully meets the path at the top. In order to exit, you can head west along the path to get to Chew Green, and then there's an unmarked path that goes all the way down by the side of a brook and then meets up with a more formal path that takes you along Chew Brook to Dove Stone Reservoir and back again to the car park. Alternatively, if you want a rather easier route out, then you can head east towards Chew Reservoir, and then you will join yourself up with the Chew Road down there, which is an easier if longer way to take you back to Dove Stone Car Park. Wilderness Gully East is a definite grade 2 scramble. Yet there are those grade 1 linking components, but what they connect together is a set of 4 or 5 definite grade 2 scrambles. They are a bit scary, they were a bit slippery, and there weren't really any great bypasses that you could take by moving up the heather that were much easier than the scrambles themselves. But nonetheless, I think it is feasible for a grade 1 scrambler to try it out. And it is all solid scramble and set within some absolutely beautiful scenery. The ratio of approach to scramble is not completely brilliant, but there are plenty of other grade 1 scrambles about that you could combine it with. And I would certainly bring someone here if they wanted to know what scrambling was all about, because you could take them to Charnel Clough or one of the other Wilderness Gullies. Then if they liked that and they wanted something a bit harder, you take them up Wilderness Gully East. I'm certainly going to come back and I'm going to rate it overall an 8 out of 10. This route map does emphasise the predominance of approach over scramble, showing blue for the walk-in from Dove Stone Car Park, tiny dash of red for the scramble, and blue again for the return. Further details are given in the text description underneath the video.